salli ala Rasulil Kareem. Most of the things have been already discussed by Professor Kaya in the inaugural session and Professor Hamidullah Marazi.
Did you have lunch? Because you sit down, you are hungry, you voice is low.
Yeah, it will pick up. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, I will present briefly certain things what Sayyid Nursi has said about this education and all that. So, I will start my paper directly without wasting my time. The European imperialism, expansion into Muslim lands on the one hand, and on the other, the serious decline of the power, prosperity, and dynamic expansion of the imperial Islam in the last years of the 18th century posed a challenge to the challenge of a magnitude that Muslim world had never faced before. Consequently, a major shift in power occurred by the 19th and early 20th centuries. Prior to the European conquest of the Muslim lands, foreign invaders such as Crusaders, Mongols may have caused horrific material and human damage, but they were not able either to undermine Muslim society, culture, religious foundation, or to shake Muslim belief in the superiority of their values and civilization. None of the earlier conquerors had been able to offer an alternative system of values and law that could claim to be superior to those of Islam, and hence capable of replacing those values and laws as organizing principle of Muslim societies at both spiritual and material level. On the contrary, in due course, earlier invaders had accepted Islam as a faith and civilization and had expanded it to the new frontiers, as illustrated by Mughal Empire, Ottomans. But as a result of Western colonial domination, the Islamic world experienced a cataclysmic change in the field of social, economic, political, as well as the ideological level. Western imperialism precipitated a religious as well as political crisis. As far as the modern education is concerned, it posed a serious challenge to the Muslim world. There were different responses to modern education. For that matter, to the West, you have modernization. The political and the intellectual leaders of the Muslim societies have responded to this impact in one or the more or three ways. Some totally rejected it, modernization as well as westernization. Some embraced it in totality, and others being selective. By the time Sayyid Nursi, like many other Muslim scholars, such as Muhammad Abduh, Rashid Riza was his contemporary to a large extent, began to form his views and express them, Ottoman Turkey, like Egypt, was in second generation of the change. Schools on the new models were being created. Tanzimat had long been implemented and hijacked. There was a talk of new political institution, and in every sphere of life was throwing upon the problems undreamed of by the early Muslims. He was conscious of the danger inherent in it, the danger of division of the society into two spheres without a real link. A sphere always diminishing, in which the laws and the moral principles of Islam ruled, and other always growing, in which the principles derived by human reason and consideration of worldly utility held sway. In other words, the danger came from an increasing secularization of the society, which by its essence could never be wholly secularized. The result was a chasm which revealed itself into every aspect of life. There are two types of schools. There were two types of schools in every country. On the one side, religious madrasas. On the other, modern schools on the European model, whether established by foreign missionaries or local governments. Behind this division of the institutions, there lay a division of separate. The two systems of education had produced two different educated classes in Turkey. As the same was the case with India, Egypt, and other Muslim places, each with a spirit of its own. One was a traditional Islamic spirit, resisting all change. The other, the spirit of young generation, accepting all change and all the ideas of European all the ideas of Europe. At the time Badiüzzaman Sayyid Nursi was born, the conflict in East and West was at its peak. Two general trends may be discerned, Islamic and Westerners, with wide range of compromise and confusion between them. In general, the West had overwhelmed to a large extent. The Muslim world on the whole was itself in confusion, as the Western civilization and culture had inflicted crushing defeat to the Muslim world. Most of the institutions of the Muslim world were crumbling. Political, educational system, judiciary, etc. Rather, we are all losing its battle against the West. However, the process of secularization in other parts of the Muslim world was gradual and surreptitious. But in Turkey, it was unparalleled in their radical and explicit nature. The entire fabric of traditional Islamic life of Turkey was torn apart expeditiously by the leaders of secularization, led by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. The dismantling of Ottoman Empire, the abolishment of Ottoman Sultanate in 1923, and replacement of secular republic were momentous events in the history of Islamic world. The promotion of an extreme nationalism, the replacement of Sharia by importing European code, elimination of an independent ulama class and Islamic endowments, waqf, closure of religious schools, the substitution of the Roman for the Arabic script, the proscription of the Sufi brotherhoods, tariqats, and various sublunary measures were taken to dethrone Islam from public life. So Badiüzzaman Nursi occupies a special place in Turkey as well as in Islam. He was essentially an alim, traditional religious scholar. From his early childhood, studied in madrasa, trained and educated in religious sciences. Along with his studies, he imposed upon himself extreme discipline and asceticism. At the end of the course, he obtained ijaza diploma from Sheikh Muhammad Jalali, the principal of Bayezid Madrasa. Thereafter, he was to be known as the Mullah Sayyid. Thereby moving from one place to another place, where besides contests of successful scholarly debates with the ulama, he came across several personalities who, according to his own words, awakened him politically and became aware of the wider issues facing the Muslim world. There he studied the work of Nami Kamal, especially his dream. It's written in a form of an address to the nation by heavenly representatives of freedom, and urges liberation and from despotism, struggle in the way of nation, progress and prosperity of the fatherland Watan. Thus it was at this time in Mardin that young Said first became aware of the struggle for freedom and constitutional government, which the young Ottomans had been pursuing since 1860. Since then, he espoused the ideas of freedom, constitutional government, rule of law throughout his life. He also got acquainted with the ideas of other Islamic thinkers like Sayyid Jamaluddin Afghani, Sayyid Nursi leaders in Mardin. He then moved to Baltis, and on the instance of the governor Omar Pasha, he studied there for 2 years in his residence. I will leave these biographical things. From Baltis, Sayyid Nursi moved to Van, where at the initial invitation of the governor Hassan Pasha, he was stayed for the next 15 years. After the appointment of Hassan Pasha's successor, Tahir Pasha, Nursi accepted to move into the governor's residence. With the exception of his visit to Istanbul, he was to stay there off and on, studying, teaching, and traveling among the tribes and consulating and consulate and the man of religion until he left for Istanbul at the end of 1907. Tahir Pasha was a respected official of the Sultan Abdul Hamid II and renowned patron of learning. He owned an extensive library and followed developments in modern science, technology, and with great enthusiasm. So I have to cut short this paper. It was at this time that as a result of these features of learning and prodigious amount of knowledge he acquired, traditional as well as modern, Sayyid Nursi now became well known as Badiüzzaman. In one, Badiuzzzaman said the Nursi had his own madrasa in one at the foothill of Stadal, called Horror Madrasa, with sometimes as many as 60 students. It was during his stay in Van that he developed ideas of educational reform and created his own particular method of teaching. The basis of this method was to combine the religious science and modern science, with the result that the positive science would corroborate and strengthen the truth of religion. Thereafter, he followed this method when teaching his students.
Can you finish?
Yes. About this Madrasa Zahra, already Professor Kaya has discussed that I do not need to discuss it more because of shortage of time. I cannot read this paper wholly, so I abide by the chairman's decision that I must conclude here. Okay, thank you.